This is doing something and then being like, what, am I not able to do it? And it's like, I would have not even known of this had you not made this into like an issue. Had you not wanted to be like, I'm getting preemptively canceled by myself for the thing that I did and loved. And now here's my segment on it. And all of you need to laugh. But not everyone was laughing. Not Larry David, apparently, who wrote a new op-ed making fun of this event. My Dinner with Adolf. If I can avoid it, don't talk about Bill Maher. So it pains me to have to say this. I have to talk about him for 2 seconds because I want to read a new op-ed by someone who often I'm not frequently reading on the show. One Larry David. You might know him as one of the co-creators of Seinfeld, as well as Curb Your Enthusiasm, both the creator and star of the series, and also the celebrity who was hilariously portraying Bernie Sanders in Bernie Sanders' last presidential run. And he's got some strong words for Mr. Bill Maher. Mr. Bill Maher, the libbiest of the libs, has decided that he wants attention again. And he wants everyone to give him attention because he went and had a conversation with Donald Trump. You'll never believe it. He discovered that Donald Trump is not as evil or as bad as everyone makes him out to be, including himself. You know, Bill Maher has had some strong words for him as well. So he wants everyone to know that he's brave. He's very brave. That regular people who aren't as brave as him wouldn't do something like this, you know. And then he went to the trouble of having gone to have a very expensive, luxurious dinner, you know, and then learn from the president firsthand.
I know you've all been waiting for. I'd like to give you my book report on my visit to the White House. Okay, as you know, 12 days ago, I had dinner with President Trump, a dinner that was set up by my friend Kid Rock, because we share a belief that there's...
Sorry, what? Already, fucking fat ass L. Jesus. You're friends with Kid Rock? As in you want to have conversations with that man and hang out with him when you're not on the clock? I swear to God, the amount of N-words that must be dropping between these two, we're talking like an entire like Tarantino script gets written every time the two of these people hang out.
Gotta be something better than hurling insults from 3,000 miles away. And let me first say that to all the people who treated this like it was some kind of summit meeting, you're ridiculous.
I would not have known about this if you hadn't been screaming it to everyone. I honestly would not have cared. Just would have happened and gone by. I don't even think you'd be criticized for it. I don't think anyone would have mentioned it. Like maybe a couple people, like The View, like, oh my word, did you hear that Bill Maher visited? And you're like, okay, sure. It tracks, you know.
Like I was going to sign a treaty or something. I have no power. I'm a fucking comedian, and he's the most powerful leader in the world. I'm not the leader of anything, except maybe a contingent of centrist-minded people who think there's got to be a better way of running this country than hating each other every minute. So, thank you.
Which is fun to say, right? Because, like, you've got this one side, say, the Trumpers, who are basically like, we need to eradicate trans people from society. And now we're actively going to lock up and put into concentration camps people for their speech and people who happen to not be white. That shit is just like terrifying and horrifying, right? Really harkens to some of the darkest moments in history. And then you've got another side that is basically in opposition to that, being like human rights, our universal rights, that we should fight against oppression. And now they're going to be equated as being the same, right? The wonderful beauty of the centrist rebranding. Being like, well, yeah, I mean, like there's problems with both, you know, there are fine people on both sides, but, you know, we have to also talk about left-wing extremism. We don't talk enough about Antifa. We don't talk about enough about all the radical extremism of those groups and all the violence that they enact upon the world. And then meanwhile, you look over and there's literally people like storming the Capitol or burning down fucking buildings and shit like that. And you're like, yes, I'm not endorsing that. I'm not saying that's good. I'm just saying both sides, right? The other side is probably doing something, I would assume, even worse somewhere else.
So meet up in person. Maybe it'll be different. Spoiler alert, it was. First good sign, before I left for the Capitol, I had my staff collect and print out this list of almost 60 different insulting epithets that the president has said about me. Things like Stupid, dummy, low-life dummy, sleazebag, sick, sad, stone cold crazy.
What is with the ego maniacs and needing to bring up when people were mean to them? Because that's really what it's all about. That's like the biggest slight, you know? And I find a lot of centrists do this too. Like Cenk does the same thing. Well, everyone calls me a Nazi. It's like, no one called you a Nazi. Or Bill Maher now, he's like, oh, well, he said mean things about me. And that's what I want to address, you know? Not us whole rounding up people without, like, you know, due process, disobeying judges' orders, basically trying to become an authoritarian fascist. None of that concerns me as much as, like, he called me dum-dum. I have it here written exactly when he said Bill Maher dum-dum. So I wanted to ask him about that.
Really a dumb guy, fired like a dog. His show is dead. There was no pressure, too. After we left the Oval Office, he showed me the little room off the office, you know, the one where Clinton used to... Okay. The blow.
I was like, I guess the jokes write themselves, because that, again, there was no punchline there. Literally, that was the definition of a setup. I walked past a room, and that room happened to be...
job room. Okay. Well, not anymore. That's where they keep the merch now. It is. Never seen him laugh in public, but he does, including at himself. And it's not fake. Believe me, as a comedian of 40 years, I know a fake laugh when I hear it. And I thank you for them. No.
Also, the weird comedian solidarity thing is a disease. It comes from all corners. Because, yeah, there's right-wing comedians, there's left-wing comedians, but this idea that it's like, hey, by the way, I appreciate, as a comedian, the fact that Donald Trump is able to laugh. He laughs a lot. He laughs at himself. I mean, I deeply respect that. No, fuck that noise. What is wrong with you?
Okay, exactly.
You want to talk about fascist collaborators.
Usual in the White House. He said, well, a lot of the presidents, they had a dog for political reasons. I said, no. People love dogs. That's what that is. Oh, yeah. Okay, that's true.
And all this goes to serve just turning Trump into a meme, right? Just he's not as bad as everyone thinks. He's still silly. There's still an aspect of Donald Trump. Like, and again, Donald Trump can be naturally hilarious when he just says random shit where you're just like, what the fuck? You know, like paper is more advanced technology than computers, or whatever that quote was. It's like, yeah, okay, I get it, but you should be actively bringing attention to the fact, like, and I don't care that you're a comedian, by the way. That means nothing. Like, if you have an opportunity to sit before a guy who's effectively trying to become an authoritarian tyrant and doing horrifying, fucking vile shit before your very eyes, now is your opportunity. You might not get invited a second time. I'll grant you. You might risk that. You might not be able to go back to Mar-a-Lago at all. And I get, and maybe that is truly the thing that scares you the most. But you do have an opportunity historically right now to have done something that most people don't have an opportunity to do.
I'm telling you what happened. As a positive that this person exists, because everything I've ever not...
Oh my God, even the UFC guy was there, and there's Kid Rock. He wore a hat.
...liked about him was, I swear to God, absent, at least on this night with this guy. Bob, Kid Rock, told me the night before, he said, if you want to get a word in edge...
So yeah, I don't get the point of any of this. Like, I totally understand why he did it. I totally understand why there's a bunch of liberals who basically are just totally fine. It doesn't matter if the U.S. is becoming fascist. It's like, yeah, but that'll preserve my wealth. So I'm fine being a collaborator along the way. I mean, historically it happened, and now it's happening in real time. And just showing up and being like, yeah, he's not as bad as everyone thinks. We had a lovely evening. I don't get why all of you are so upset all the time when you talk about him. And again, that could have just happened. But he had to go the extra distance to make this into an issue. To be like, you know what really grinds my gears, what warrants an entire segment on HBO primetime? I want to tell you all about how some people aren't giving me the respect I deserve. When I had the nicest night out, it was just such a lovely dinner, you know, and we had a great conversation. He was so friendly to me. Kid Rock was really nice. We're best friends. All the food was delicious. He laughs. He makes fun of himself. He's not the guy the media portrays him to be, and I want you to know all about that. That's the point of this. This is the segment. Like, you have to have like just the next tier of delusional ego to get to that, where it's just like, it's not enough for me to have done something horrifying that most people would just judge as, again, being abhorrent in the current climate and culture. Like, I'm sorry, this gives Katy Perry the biggest pass ever. You're mad at her for just being an out of touch fucking multimillionaire who travels to or wants to travel for space and wants credit for that. Yeah, gross. I will admit that gives most the ick. It's cringe. But this is worse. This is doing something and then being like, what, am I not able to do it? And it's like, I would have not even known of this had you not made this into like an issue. Had you not wanted to be like, I'm getting preemptively canceled by myself for the thing that I did and loved, and now here's my segment on it, and all of you need to laugh. But not everyone was laughing. Not Larry David, apparently, who wrote a new op-ed making fun of this event. The New York Times by Larry David. Mr. David is a comedian and writer who created Curb Your Enthusiasm and was a co-creator of Seinfeld. This article is called My Dinner with Adolf. Imagine my surprise when in the spring of 1939, a letter arrived at my house inviting me to dinner at the old chancellery with the world's most reviled man, Adolf Hitler. I had been a vocal critic of him on the radio from the beginning, pretty much predicting everything he was going to do on the road to dictatorship. No one I knew encouraged me to go. He's Hitler. He's a monster. But eventually I concluded that hate gets us nowhere. I knew I couldn't change his views, but we need to talk to the other side, even if it was invaded and annexed other countries and committed unspeakable crimes against humanity. 2 weeks later, I found myself on the front steps of the old chancellery and was led into an opulent living room where a few of the Führer's most vocal supporters had gathered. Himmler, Göring, Leni Riefenstahl, and the Duke of Windsor, formerly King Edward. We talked about some of the most beautiful art on the walls and been taken from the homes of Jews. But our conversation ended abruptly when we heard loud footsteps coming down the hallway. Everyone stiffened as Hitler entered the room. He was wearing a tan suit with a swastika armband and gave me an enthusiastic greeting that caught me off guard. Frankly, it was a warmer greeting than I normally get from my parents, and it was accompanied by a slap on the back. I found the whole thing quite disarming. I joked that I would be surprised to see him in a tan suit because if he wore that out, it would be perceived as un-Führer-like. That amused him to no end, and I realized I'd never seen him laugh before. Suddenly, he seemed so human. Here I was, prepared to meet Hitler, the one I'd seen and heard, the public Hitler. But this private Hitler was a completely different animal. And oddly enough, this one seemed more authentic. Like this was the real Hitler. The whole thing had my head spinning. He said he was starving and led us into the dining room, where he gestured for me to sit next to him. Göring immediately grabbed a slice of pumpernickel, whereupon Hitler turned to me, gave me an eye roll, and whispered, "Watch, he'll be done with his entire meal before you've taken 2 bites." That one really got me. Göring, with his mouth full, asked what was so funny, and Hitler said, "I was just telling him about the time my dog had diarrhea in the Reichstag." Göring remembered. How could he forget? He loved that story, especially the part where Hitler shot the dog before it got back into the car. Then, a beaming Hitler said, I should put, quote, "Hey, if I can kill Jews, gypsies, and homosexuals, I can certainly kill a dog." That perhaps got the biggest laugh of the night, and believe me, there were plenty. But it wasn't just a one-way street, with the Führer dominating the conversation. He was quite inquisitive and asked me a lot of questions about myself. I told him that I'd just gone through a brutal breakup with my girlfriend because every time I went someplace without her, she was always insisting that I tell her everything I talked about. I can't stand having to remember every detail of every conversation. Hitler said he could relate. He hated that too. What am I, a secretary? He advised me it was best not to have any more contact with her, or else I'd be right back where I started, and eventually I'd have to go through the whole thing all over again. I said it must be easy for a dictator to go through a breakup. He said, "You'd be surprised. There are still feelings." There are still feelings. That really resonated with me. We're not that different after all. I thought that if only the world could see this side of him, people might have a completely different opinion. 2 hours later, our dinner was over, and the Führer escorted me to the door. I'm so glad I have met you. I hope I'm no longer the monster you thought I was. I must say, mein Führer, I'm so thankful I came. Although we disagree on many issues, it doesn't mean that we have to hate each other. And with that, I gave him a Nazi salute and walked out for the night. I like how they have to say it both at the start and at the end too. Larry David is a comedian. This is a bit. This whole thing is comedy. This is definitely 100% a parody. This is not a real article. This is not the New York Times reflecting. But yeah, I mean, Jesus, what the fuck is Bill thinking? It'd be one thing if it was just like This was years ago, before his first presidential run, back when he had, well, I mean, he ran for president a number of times and was unsuccessful in the primaries, so maybe around that time, he's like, doing his own roast. A lot of people showed up. He's mostly just known as the New York socialite, the old Trump, not the kind of fascistic far-right one, so it was a different time, like someone buying a Tesla in 2018, they just thought they were getting a nice electric car that could go to distance, and that's all it was. It wasn't a statement. It wasn't them endorsing, fascism, just all that kind of stuff. But now he's doing this like months into the second administration of Donald Trump, and then making such a big fucking deal about people paying attention to him for it. Being like, notice me. Look at the thing I did. You're triggered. Aren't you all triggered? Aren't you triggered that I had a really delicious dinner with Trump and Kid Rock and Dana White? Don't, aren't you jealous? Yeah, and it was civil because we care about conversations more than anything. It's like this is going to be the element of radical centrism that like tries to end the world. It's going to be the Lex Friedman effect, where it's like, what matters way more than the issues concerning the majority of the population or the direction generally that society is going, or anything that could actually result in the end of civilization as we know it, is conversations. Conversations are the most important thing, and they trump anything else. If you have someone who is like, we are in the middle of a climate catastrophe, we need to radically change the way we both extract and utilize energy, or society itself will fail, I say to you, can we talk about it? Can we have a conversation? Can you sit down and rationally sit across the table from me and just have a face-to-face talk about this? And if not, then I'm sorry. I can't trust you. Because I know the people who have conversations are the one who care the most about conversations. They're important. Dialogue and debate, exactly. That's the most important part.
Don't let this happen to you. Go to serfscoffee.com to order the only end-to-end owned indigenous coffee company that delivers blood-free, conflict-free, and cruelty-free beans right to your door. 0% of people who drink serfscoffee.com have exploded spontaneously. By ordering right now, you get 10% off plus free shipping, and it's the best way to enjoy delicious coffee while not exploding. That's serfscoffee.com, serfscoffee.com.
Hey, if you'd like to unlock secret bonus episodes as well as uncensored content, go to patreon.com/theserfs. This show is produced by Anna Loves Riley, Arian McCarthy, Cheryl Alvarez, Comrade Junkie, Doug Caddy, Everything Important, Hagbard Celine, Jimmy Sombrero, Multimondi, Omni, Political Puppy, Preston Kroll, Quiet 185, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Cernicus, Stellar Gwyn, Sebastian Demel, Travis McClinton, Trincel, Words Greenwood, with additional support coming from all of these amazing human beings right here.